The Regional Cooperation Council presents Balkan Barometer, People and Business Viewpoints.
Analyze.
Hello?
Hello. Hi to everybody. Here we are. So, hello to everybody. Yes, that music was a bit louder indeed, which was the teaser of the Balkan Barometer, but we just wanted to give a flavor of what we are going to launch today. So let me welcome you all to the 6th edition of the Balkan Barometer, the annual survey of regional perceptions and attitudes across a wide array of social, political, and economic factors impacting life in Western Balkans. I'm honored to share this opening session with two distinguished guests, Commissioner for Enlargement and Neighborhood, Oliver Varhelyi, and Ambassador Wolfgang Dischinger, Chairman of Munich Security Conference and Kunoaser of the Balkans. But while we were interpreting the data of the Balkan Barometer 2020, as we all know, the pandemic arrived. I will not repeat the obvious here, but the quick spread of COVID-19 was a grim reminder of how the disasters ignore borders and that cooperation is maybe the only blueprint that holds the promise of stronger together. Crushed in a landslide of data, nonetheless, we thought it would be important to understand public and business sentiments after the outbreak of the pandemic, to have an accurate picture of its impact in our economies. Let me first thank the team that professionally worked on these editions, even though the hurdles to start a new survey during the lockdown were quite hard. Said that, we are launching today two parts of Balkan Barometer, the pre-pandemic reality of the region and the during-pandemic one. As you'll see, or most probably did already, the reality comes without masks. It continues to be inherently brittle, although with some improvements. Unemployment and economic development remain the fundamental problems in the region for respectively 45% and 40% of the respondents. There is discouragingly a marked decrease in trust across all institutions since the previous editions of Barometer, with notable surge in the perceptions of corruption across the institutional landscape in the region. 71% of respondents think that the governments are not fighting corruption successfully, compared to 61% we had in 2018. Parliaments and the judiciary are tied as least trusted institution, as indicated by almost 2/3 of respondents, followed, as I mentioned, by the government. But what was really surprising to us is that the citizens consider the most corrupted categories the political parties, 82%, judiciary, 80%, public officials, 70%, media as well, on 69%. In contrast, the support for EU and regional cooperation keeps increasing. More than half of all citizens view EU accession favorably, 59% this time, and as well regional cooperation with 63%. Regional cooperation continues to grow in prominence with an overwhelming majority of citizens. And we think that that might be a very good data because 65% of them believe that what brings Western Balkan citizens together is more important than what separates us. Brain drain is still a big problem in the region. It jumped 7 points as a main concern, from 13% a year ago to 20% in 2019. And hope is not yet rearing head here. 71% of Western Balkans young people think about going abroad. There is a likely strong correlation between lessening concerns over unemployment and rising anxieties over brain drain, as Western Balkans economies start to come to terms with exceptionally high outward migration of skilled labor. For the first time since its inception, the barometer is looking at which countries outside the region are the preferred trade partners. And I'm glad to share with you that the EU is convincingly leading the rankings with more than 2/3 of all the respondents, while Turkey, Russia share the second position with 36% and China following with 31%. Business leaders have taken a more positive look. It goes like that usually towards the investment and the environment, with 53% stating their economy is either a good or a great place to invest. 5% increase compared to the previous year. 38% were expecting to hire new workers over the next 12 months. 1 in 3 respondents uses mobile data, while the roaming in the region has helped more than 35% of them so declare that their prices have been decreased and they are feeling that the roaming is working, the roam like at home agreement in the Balkans is working. So as you see, there are uppers and downers moods. Problems are still persisting. Hope is still high on the role of EU in transforming our societies. Here we were standing until COVID-19 migrated as well to the region, forcing us to deal with a parallel universe. Citizens of Western Balkans feel that coronavirus outbreak poses high threat to both global and their national economies. 72% of them consider it as a high threat for their respective national economies. 83% of respondents in Western Balkans were in favor of mandatory quarantine to curtail the spread of coronavirus. And this might be a very interesting figure to comment further, I guess. 65% see favorably the foreign assistance aimed at helping the economy amid the coronavirus outbreak. Only 1/3 of respondents in the Western Balkans are satisfied with their governments and how they ensure that people will not lose jobs as a consequence of the coronavirus outbreak. The majority of respondents, 57, said that their business were mostly faced with problems related to access to domestic customers, which is quite understandable. 60% of the business respondents have reduced operations due to the COVID outbreak, and this is quite worrisome. Only 5% have fired staff permanently so far. The figures, ironically, oppose the pre-COVID outlook when 54% of businesses were expecting increased demand for their product services and 38% expected to hire new workers over the next 12 months. Businesses, as I mentioned, mostly optimistic. 47% of business consider useful the measures provided by the national governments to help them. There is a difference in the level of pessimism and optimism regarding different business and companies. The ones who are facing pessimism are the ones of transport, trade, and tourism, while the highest optimism stands among big companies, those dealing with industry, mining, and construction. So, truth be told, and I'll wrap up in here, the COVID-19 will be a tipping point for the region as well. Channeling information and perceptions in favor of policy orientations might be the glue that will hold us together. You may find a lot of more interesting data and analysis in full editions of Balkan Barometer. It might as well persuade everybody that the narrative of domestic competence wouldn't be wounded at all if it will be accompanied by real measures of regional competence. And that is how we may confidently shape the future or the things to come. that is all for me, as just to pepper up a bit your thoughts on these editions of Balkan Barometer. Without any further delay, I would like to give the floor to the Honorable Commissioner for his remarks, and then we'll have Ambassador Ishinger. Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to introduce you to this very fascinating survey. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to look at it, but my colleagues have made a little search already in it, and I think we have found some really interesting figures to share. So this survey really takes the pulse of the region, I think. It provides an invaluable insight into how the people of the Western Balkans perceive our policies, also our performance. It indicates where do we do well and where do we need to do better, or even much better. For me personally, this survey is very interesting because it was taken precisely at the time when I took office at the end of last year. Therefore, it shows me rather where did we start from. And I do hope that next year's survey is going to prove that what we have been doing was very well received by the people of the Western Balkans, but also that it made a difference in their opinion. Let me start by highlighting two figures I find particularly interesting. 59% of the respondents thought that the EU membership would be a good thing. That is a very solid majority and marks an increase of 10% from last 2 years. This is clearly good news. Unfortunately, 26% of the respondents believe that the EU membership will never happen. This figure has also been on the up in the last year. It also shows how antagonistically people view this issue and how deeply emotional this can be. This may, on the other hand, also reflect the uncertainty about the European perspective of the region after several inconclusive discussions on opening accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia, something that is already the thing of the past by now, as we have managed to get through that hurdle and open the negotiations with these two countries. Since then, we have taken quite a number of significant steps. As you know, first in February, we have proposed a new revised enlargement methodology to make the accession negotiations more credible, more predictable, more dynamic, and guided by a stronger political steer. Second, despite the COVID pandemic, we have managed to get agreement among the member states in the Council to open the accession negotiations with North Macedonia and Albania. That has happened in March. And unfortunately, then our work got hijacked, so to speak, by the COVID pandemia, where we have put forward unparalleled support for the Western Balkans, a package of 3.3 billion euros in help, together with the European Investment Bank. On top of this, we have also associated the Western Balkans to a number of initiatives that have been reserved previously to our own member states, like the Green Lane or the joint procurement of medical equipment, just to mention a few. Third, in May, we have had the Zagreb summit as planned, despite the pandemic. This is, I think, a very important political signal from the EU leaders. And they have not only reiterated the European perspective for the region, but also made a strong commitment to deliver on that through an enhanced engagement on the EU side, through an economic development plan that is to come in the autumn. As a next step, we will propose in the coming days the draft negotiation frameworks for Albania and North Macedonia to the Council, together with an update on the progress they have made. All that sound convincing the doubters, I hope. that the EU is making a very serious case out of the European perspective for the Western Balkans, and that it is one of its main priorities to deliver on that. To progress on the EU path, on the other hand, we need the governments of the region to continue to deliver on the reforms. Further work is required on the rule of law, the fight against corruption, and organized crime, as these are essential preconditions for attracting investment and boosting growth and jobs. Faster tangible results on reforms will not only mean moving faster in accession negotiations, as underlined in the enhanced enlargement methodology, it is also what citizens expect. Corruption once again ranked among the biggest problems in the region. Worryingly, 71% thinks that the governments are not fighting corruption successfully, compared to 61% back in 2018. And trust in governance institutions has deteriorated further. The region needs to do better to build confidence, not only to the citizens, but also within the EU. We also need to speed up the economic convergence of the Western Balkans with the EU. Respondents have pointed to unemployment and economic development as the key problems of the region, and that was even before the corona pandemic. For that reason, we will come forward in the autumn with an economic investment plan for the Western Balkans to support the long-term economic recovery, bring the region closer to the EU, and to create much-needed jobs to the benefit of businesses and citizens alike. Connectivity, especially in transport and energy, the green transition, in particular decarbonization of energy production, and the digital transformation, featuring broadband internet access, will be the backbone of that plan. Regional cooperation will be an important part of the economic recovery. It is good to know that it enjoys the support of an overwhelming part of the people of the region. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the region has proven that it can address common challenges swiftly and efficiently and effectively. For example, the establishment of the green lanes, allowing trade flows to continue, has been widely recognized, not only by the citizens of the region, but also here in the EU. Let me particularly thank the Regional Cooperation Council for its important role in these efforts. This continued cooperation between the governments of the region and the Regional Cooperation Council and the EU will also be essential in developing a new vision for the regional economic area. This is critical work to increase the attractiveness and competitiveness of the region and to put the region on the radar of global investors. We need to continue working together intensively to speed up the economic recovery and to advance the reforms, increase business confidence, and make a marked difference in the lives of the people in the region. Then we will be able to look forward with confidence to the results of the next year's Balkan Barometer. I do thank you for your attention, and I do hope that next time it will be in person, that we can explain to everybody the next barometer. Thank you.
We do hope to thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for your intervention, and thank you as well for the support and the devotion to the region. So without losing any time, because I know Ambassador Ischinger will have to depart, I'm giving the floor to you by thanking you in advance for accepting our invitation. Ambassador Ischinger?
Hello, this is Wolfgang Ischinger.
Hello, welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this memorable kickoff of the Balkan Barometer. I'm honored to participate in this session, and I would like to greet you personally, Madam Secretary General, and certainly the Commissioner who just spoke convincingly and whose words I would fully want to support and underline. And if I may, I would also say how pleased I am that finally, after years of waiting, we've been able to move the agenda forward, and that my good friends from the region, including Minister Dimitrov, who's been a close friend for years and years, is now on the fast track to EU accession, along with his colleagues from Albania, of course. So let me just add a few brief words, if I may, to what has just been said by the Commissioner. First, the pandemic crisis has had a tendency of accelerating and accentuating all the negative trends which we've been experiencing globally and regionally. Fragmentation of the international order, fragmentation even of Europe with Brexit and with a number of other issues that have been requiring a lot of internal energy inside the European Union. But I think the lesson which we are now learning from the pandemic crisis is that each one of us is only going to be safe once all of us are going to be safe. And that is what I would call the European imperative. The European imperative. In other words, I think the very idea of Europe, the idea of close cooperation, the idea of integration, of regional integration, is going to actually to obtain a boost from this global crisis that has been afflicting the entire world. So I think we in the European Union actually have a chance, if we seize it with energy, of coming out of this crisis at the end of the day politically stronger and more united, not drawn apart. So that's my first point, the European imperative. My second point is with regard to the regional countries. And of course, I'm addressing myself in particular to the two countries that have now received the green light of accession talks. My experience has been for the last 20 or 25 years, when I've been discussing the way forward with regional leaders, don't sit back and wait for the EU to come and propose steps to you. Take matters into your own hands. Make sure that you and your regional neighbors with whom you are in the same boat come to Brussels with something to show, with closer regional cooperation, with first steps at integration, which will make it all the much easier for all of us to integrate you, your countries, your peoples, your economies into the European Union in the negotiations that will come soon. So come prepared and think of your possibility of working together regionally as an accelerator, not as a permanent and long-term waiting room, but as a potential accelerator of the process. So I applaud the efforts undertaken by the Regional Cooperation Council, like this barometer and all the other initiatives that have been taken. And I would encourage you all, Madam Secretary General, and your team to continue this very important effort. Third, and almost last, let me simply say, for all those who have doubts, even if sometimes the European Union is slow in taking steps forward, I refer, for example, to our inability so far to grant visa liberalization to Kosovo, which I think is a huge mistake. I think we should have done that a while ago. So we're of course, we have problems, but your future and our future is Europe, because you are part of Europe. You cannot ignore your own geography, and that is why it is so great and wonderful, and we should congratulate ourselves that the road into Europe, the road towards membership of the European Union, has now been opened. Consider yourselves, important and active future members of the European Union. Consider yourself as part of the team. My final and last point, and I'm addressing myself to the leaders of the participating countries, but also to the Regional Cooperation Council as an important international coordinating and cooperation instrument. I want to assure you that as far as I'm concerned, and as far as the Munich Security Conference is concerned, we will certainly strive to include the issues related to the accession process, the issues related to unresolved regional political and security issues. I refer inter alia to the Serbia-Kosovo dialogue, et cetera, et cetera. I want to make sure that we keep these issues all on the agenda of the Munich Security Conference, and I hope that many of you will be able to participate in the Munich Security Conference 2021 next February. I hope we can conduct it with the pandemic crisis behind us, and I want to use this opportunity to extend an invitation to the leaders of both of the accession candidate countries, and of course also to the leadership of the Regional Cooperation Council. So thank you so much for having me and including me, and I'm really pleased to see that you, Madam Secretary General, with the funding which your institution, your organization has been receiving from the European Union, that you have started working together with the Agora Strategy Group, which is an undertaking which I founded with some colleagues just a few years ago in order to help countries in the region and elsewhere move forward and advance. So thank you again for including me. I wish you all the best, and I'm sorry I can't be there physically. I hope next time, at the next opportunity, we can again all be in one room and work together. Thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you.
Ambassador Ischinger, thank you very much indeed. As crowd is Munich Security Council conferences every year, I just hope that this coronavirus will leave us free to join the next fora. So thank you for your comments and thank you for the points, which I think might be a very good food for thought. And actually, there is a Q&A session in this Zoom platform. So I would invite all the participants to share, comment, ask, and then get some answers from any of us, whoever can give a response. Okay, so I think that now we are done with the first part of our Zoom, so the opening remarks. And in 2 minutes, I would invite you to watch one video on COVID. And its effects in the region, and in 2 minutes after it will be back again and start with our distinguished panelists that are already here.
In these unprecedented times, technology has allowed us to work, educate, and live emotions, although physically distant. Yet not all could be done this way. Our lives as we know it went through a tremendous trial. Does it come as a surprise to you that 90% of Western Balkan citizens see coronavirus as a threat to their national economy, whereas only 70% see it as a threat to themselves personally? Well, I'm not surprised that the fear of losing one's job is greater than actually getting the virus, especially when we know that the unemployment is on the rise in the region as we brace ourselves for a recession. More than 90% of the people see measures taken to stop spreading the virus, such as self-isolation, quarantine for the infected, and the use of masks and gloves as effective. But less than half, 42% to be precise, think that governments are doing enough to protect people from losing their jobs, whereas 35% are impatient to return to work, whereas 32% are just happy to be spending time at home with their families. Now, if anything positive did come out of this pandemic, it's spending more time with loved ones. When it comes to Western Balkan businesses, 81% had been affected by COVID-19, 2% had been forced to close down, and 60% had to downscale in order to survive. Now, on the other hand, 38% declared problems with supply chain, which I suppose would have been an even bigger issue had the region not succeeded to open green corridors. Now, the biggest concern for businesses is the loss of income. And you can see this in the example of the tourism sector, which during lockdown lost €1 billion monthly. 50% of businesses believe that financial aid would be best, while 48% believe that delaying taxes is the way to go. To conclude with, 1/4 of businesses are not confident they have the resources to make it through the coronavirus outbreak. Although 5% already report firing their staff permanently, in the Western Balkans there is still a dash of optimism, with 41% of businesses are confident that the economic situation after the COVID situation will be positive. Perhaps they'll create a vaccine or find a cure, or the virus will just simply weaken. But whatever happens, we'd like to believe it. Cappuccino? Cafe latte. Enjoy. I'm Rashad Strick, the owner of the Ministry at Chafe, a small coffee shop in Sarajevo.
And here we are back again after the video. Actually, Rashad is an actor. He was living in Australia, and then he came back before the pandemic in Sarajevo to hope to open his coffee shop, which actually destiny didn't really help him a lot, but I hope that he will really pass this through as other business people have to do. So I'm inviting you now to follow the panel. And our distinguished guests in here are Mr. Nikola Dimitrov, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Republic of North Macedonia. Mrs. Genoveva Ruiz Calavera, Director of Western Balkans, Directorate General for Neighborhood and Enlargement Negotiations at European Commission. Gen Tsakai, Acting Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs of Albania. And instead of Marko Čadež, that I was told is not feeling well, and I hope nothing serious, we will have Nenad Đurić from the Chamber of Investment Forum. And this panel will be shared in moderation by myself and Tanja Miščević, the Deputy Secretary General at the RCC. So I would start with you, Nick. On March 9th, I was supposed to travel to Skopje for the Berlin Process Ministerial of MFA. But on the same day, the lockdown in Albania was declared and the borders got closed. And furthermore, I was not feeling well myself. So unfortunately, I missed physically that ministerial. But ever since the lockdown and Zoom became our new reality, And despite all the difficulties and uncertainties that springtime brought to us together, March has been a very positive month for North Macedonia. So the Council decision on opening of accession talks and decision on joining NATO. And I have congratulated you, and officially we have done it, but congratulations as well from this fora for achieving these important milestones for your country. It comes by no surprise that the region's supports on the EU membership has increased by 30% during the last 7 years. On the other hand, there is a marked revival, I would say, of pessimism regarding the EU integration prospects, and now worryingly make up more than a quarter of the overall respondents' population. So how do you see these findings, kind of comparing the one with another one? Still, we hope very high that, and we keep faith on the EU, but on the other side, there is this level of kindly pessimism because of the length of the process. Yes, we see you, Nicola.
Trying to unmute myself.
You are, we can hear and see you.
Thank you so much. Great to see you, my Linda, and all of the friends virtually. I was going to say around the table, but this is not really the case. I'd like to, in particular, greet and thank the Commissioner, Oliver Varhey, for being with us, if he is still around, but even if he is not. And also my good and very wise friend, Wolfgang Ischinger, with whom we served together many years ago in Washington, D.C. And I'm really grateful also on behalf, I think I can dare to say that on behalf of the region, to his leadership of the Munich Security Conference and making sure that our topics are actually discussed and debated at this important forum. Now, to your question, two points. One, indeed, March was a rather historic month, even 1 week of March, because the European Council endorsed the green light to North Macedonia and Albania, given by the General Affairs Council. The endorsement took place on 26th of March. And legally, formally, we joined NATO the next day, the 27th of March. It was a Friday. Both of those took a while, a lot of efforts. NATO, we started the journey as back as '93. And a candidate country since 2005 with many positive reports. So on one side, we couldn't really make a stop, take a moment to digest this achievement at home. But on the other hand, we are very grateful to the Commission and the member states for doing what they did at a time where we all faced an unprecedented health challenge. And even the decision was done in an unprecedented manner in written proceedings, and the meeting of the GAC took place via a similar web gathering. Now, on the findings of the poll, I think it's telling in terms of the challenges that we face. So people would very much like to see their countries become European. And this is what the process is about. The process is about transforming the democracies of the Western Balkans into functional, vibrant, prosperous European democracies. So people would like to see more European standards, but at home. At the same time, the end of that process seems a bit far. It is certainly far for politicians in terms of election cycles, but even for the people, sometimes this is seen as too far, almost unachievable. So I think we have work to do both here in the region. I think this is a work that has already started with the new methodology, with the work of the Commission, And I think this breakthrough for 2 of the 6 in March is definitely a step in the right direction. It's going to be important to show that this green light really means start of the accession talks. And we're going to do everything that we can, both in terms of reforms at home. Right after, as you know, we are in an electoral campaign. Today is the first day. We have elections on 15th of July. But we need a strong pro-European, pro-reform government that will offer and produce arguments, and together with the German presidency, the Commission, other member states, to remove and work out all challenges so that we actually have the first intergovernmental conference. I think both the region and the EU, we don't really have the luxury of not solidifying successes. And this is what we should do. Last point, in these polls that we have, and congratulations on the great presentation and the work that you do, which is also useful for our policy making at home on the basis of this, of the barometer, of the Balkan Barometer. I think the businesses are encouraged. We have a rebound compared to last year. People are confident in retaining their jobs, about 72% in the case of North Macedonia. We are among the highest levels of concern with regard to brain drain. 28% know that this is the biggest problem for the economy. And I think on this point, that's why I sometimes say that the whole region is in a race with time. We have to focus on the real issues, on our market economies, on rule of law, on the reasons that inspire people to seek for a European way of life beyond their homes. So we need to use this opportunity and create change on the ground here. Increase of the importance of EU membership for businesses from 46% last year to 61% in our country. And this is again very much probably related to this historic March breakthrough. And I should also mention our deep gratitude. We will never forget the role of the Croatian presidency. What we're going to try to do also in the campaign is address the concerns of the people and explain why accession process can be a tool that will help us to do so. The number one concern in the country for the moment of citizens is COVID-19, health situation, and the economic consequences. Number two, the state of the economy and economic development, jobs and salaries. And number three is fight against corruption and organized crime. On all of these issues, we are very much in the same boat with the European Union. And I think the sense of togetherness that the crisis created, we should make use of it in other areas as well, also in political terms. I think I'll stop here. You asked us to be brief. And apologies for not really being brief.
No, actually, we had some time constraints during the first part, but if you'd like to intervene during the discussions, please do. But and again, so I did not forget that you are in an electoral campaign. So those data can be immediately translated into policy formulations by your side. So I wish you good luck as well personally, Nicola. Let me now give the floor to our dear Veva. Veva, you can live in Brussels or you can go in Madrid, but you are spending most of your time with us here in the region. So you know our difficulties, our hurdles, even the mindset, and I'm pretty sure that you can really sense now and read the mind of people and politicians in the region as well. This time, the Balkan Barometer, as we have been talking and chatting with each other, has some very good elements. So Commissioner mentioned those, and Ambassador Ischinger as well followed on that, on the support on the EU process. But what was really important for us when we had this COVID phase was the sense that the citizens, 65%, they appreciate the EU assistance provided on COVID. And given the circumstances that at the beginning the situation was a bit kind of frustrating for everybody in the region, we really find this a very good figure. So EU has dedicated to the region 3.3 billion euros as post-recovery, while, as Commissioner as well mentioned, we are waiting for the economic and investment plan for the Western Balkans to be launched by fall time, plus the country reports as well. But you are fully aware that we are under preparation for the next phase of regional economic area, or the regional integration framework of Western Balkans. So how would you evaluate and see the linkage, and how do you think, so how much complementary these processes are and should be?
Thank you, Melinda, and of course a big warm regards to Nicola Dimitrov, and after to Gant Kayak. I'm happy to be here with all of you. I think the first thing we have to consider is that the COVID crisis has put very clear at the forefront of our collective work, you know, a very clear fact is that the level of economic integration between the EU and the Western Balkans is so high that whatever happens in the EU affects the Western Balkans, and of course, whatever happens in the Western Balkans affects the EU. But I would say that this close interrelation is as well something that has been put into very much at the forefront within the Western Balkans themselves. I mean, what we saw during the crisis that, and you have put it in your video, is thanks to the capacity that we had to work with the region with the help of the Transport Community Secretariat to establish very quickly corridors, green corridors, so that the essential foodstuff and the essential drugs and the medicines that were necessary for the region to confront the crisis could continue flowing, really demonstrated as well that this region, when it cooperates together, it's really top class. And we have to build on the lessons we have learned during the crisis in order to maintain and enhance this level of regional integration and cooperation. It is clear that the leaders of the region have committed to this. We have on the 6th of May in the Zagreb summit, the declaration clearly talks about the vision we have for the region, together the leaders of the EU and the leaders of the region, to develop this regional economic market, an area where should the rules of the EU should start applying, so that we are helping all the region to progress as well towards the European Union. And we consider that the economic recovery of the Western Balkans will not only come through the investment plan that we're going to put on the table, but that investment plan considers that the regional economic integration is one of the pillars of what the EU wants to do with the region. So the first message is not only this is complementary, this is an integral part of what we need to do together for the recovery of the region post-COVID and beyond. It is clear that the economic recovery that we need has to come through the private sector. And the private sector in the region has to be able to attract investment from outside, from the European Union, because this region has a particular advantage, which is you are at the center of the European Union, and you really could have really very much benefit from the near-shoring opportunities that brings you. And the second thing we have to do, of course, not only from the EU, of course, investments around the world. But when you talk, and it's a pity that Marco Chadec is not here, with investors, they tell us this region is too fragmented, it's too complicated. I mean, 2 days ago on the 17th, I read Valerie Hoskins in the Financial Times. She's quoting the figures we always quote, that in this region, you're losing 1% of GDP every year. This is 800 million euro because of barriers. Or that, you know, trucks and goods need 800 I mean, I think that you're talking about 30 million hours a year of waiting times in the borders. And this is absolutely a handicap for the region to convince serious investors to come and invest. And that's why, I mean, the European Investment Plan, which we will, of course, invest, like the Commissioner said, in green recovery, in digital recovery, in all aspects of connectivity, which are the underlying building blocks for economic recovery. But economic jobs and growth for the people will only come through investment. And this investment requires a regional economic area on the basis of the 4 pillars of the European Union, where goods, where services, where people, and where, of course, capitals can flow in the region. So we are happy that we got the commitment from the leaders of the region that this is a priority. We are happy that the RCC is working together with the different Sherpas of the prime ministers and other authorities to shape that concept. We are very happy that there will be a summit in the second part of the year hosted by Nicola, by North Macedonia, together with Sofia, under the auspices of the Berlin process. So this regional economic area can be presented, can be endorsed at great length. And we are certainly telling you, don't lose this opportunity. One of the lessons that COVID has taught us is that many of the economic operators that are now, that they were exclusively located in China, they are looking for other spots to as well, so that they don't have all their investments concentrated only in one production site. And if you manage to have a credible regional economic area on the basis of the EU rules, you will be in a particularly good position to attract those investments to the region. Thank you.
Vega, thank you very much, dear. Yes, that might be a very good opportunity. And I feel great that there is this sense of consciousness in the region, while picking up not only the rightist investors, because that the logic might be different for business community, but trying to understand where your investment can be solid and solidified. So which area and which countries, and that's why we're glad when the data came and we found out that the countries that are not only the biggest trade partners, but that investors and business community would like to trade with more are countries of the European Union. So I would like to give the floor now to Ghent Mirmjesati and Amerik. So Ghent is in States, I think, huh?
Thank you very much for the floor, my Linda, and allow me to begin by...
Let me just address you one question so that maybe might be easier for you. I don't want to rob you the whole day in there.
No, it's all fine.
From the Zagreb summit, the message of the readiness of the Western Balkans to embark on the next phase of deepening regional cooperation and bringing the region closer to the EU internal market was reinforced. So we have together started to work on that to have a solid frame that should be endorsed within Sofia summit. So with your lenses now, how do you see the findings of this year Balkan Barometer in this regard? So do you think that the citizens and business in Western Balkans share the same understanding and the perception on regional cooperation as the leaders, or these are two processes running in parallel? So which is the target group that we should work closely with politicians, or trying to work and build a narrative with citizens?
Thank you very much for your very tough question. Actually, I'm joining this talk right after I made it to Washington, D.C., which also means I'm jet-lagged. So if I do any blunder, please show some understanding and act like everything is going perfectly fine. So, but before I begin, I would sincerely like to commend you for the tremendous job you're doing in fostering regional cooperation, and also expressing our gratitude to the European Commission representatives for keeping Western Balkans very high on their agenda. Now, there are a couple of points that I would like to make, but I do understand that there are time restrictions, so I'll try to be as concise as possible. First is related to COVID crisis, and I'm also coming back to your question. It's very clear that during the pandemics, we've had as a region excellent cooperation. So we have managed to put all the political divisions or leave bilateral disputes aside and absolutely concentrate on opening green corridors, inside cooperation in the field of health and medical care, enable the circulation of critical supplies, and not to mention the fact that we have been very closely working in the process of repatriation. Nevertheless, this is extremely good, but it's absolutely an exception. So we don't have to take this momentum for granted, and we need to put more intense effort in the direction of consolidating the process of regional cooperation. And let me get things straight. At times, there is indeed not very positive perception on how we're doing with regional cooperation, and this is legitimate. On the one hand, there is absolutely a success story because, as we could see with the regional roaming agreement, we have managed to achieve something in the benefit of our own citizens. But on the other hand, there are also some setbacks, or there are some processes in which we are clearly stagnating. For instance, we all the time speak about mobility, but if I would use my Kosovo's passport, it would have been easier for me to come in Washington, D.C. than to come in Sarajevo and visit you and pay an official visit in Sarajevo. So this shows a clear need for moving forward with facilitating internal movement in the region, at least. The second point that I wanted to make is exactly related with some of the issues that you have raised. 77% of the respondents, if I'm not mistaken, do see the regional cooperation in their own benefit. Nevertheless, approximately only 40% of them have experienced positive changes in their daily lives as a result of the regional cooperation. And I want to be very clear, last year maybe is not the best year possible when it comes to the regional economic cooperation, especially I do emphasize the economic factor for the reasons that we do understand, because maybe a pragmatic approach was compromised for some other more principled issues, but nevertheless, this experience seems now to be behind us, so I'm not going to very much talk about it, but it's very clear that it could have negatively affected public perception when it comes to regional cooperation. And I want now to say that I've been following very carefully the figures of Balkan Barometer for years, actually. And I could see that there is often a mismatch between public perception and what we do in reality. So public perception is not all the time evolving in accordance with reality, because some of the processes and some of the achievements that we have made are actually quite good, but the public perception is not being transformed accordingly. So what we need definitely is a better communication and taking more responsibilities, even in the national level, to explain the benefits of the regional cooperation. And here I have to endorse a point that Veva made, that the process of job creation that our region so desperately needs is inherently related to the process of attracting more investments. And for small economies, as we are, this is not a process that we can manage on a national basis. So what we need is actually put our efforts to move gradually in the direction of implementing regional investment reform agenda. And as far as Albania's government is concerned, I want to confirm our support to this process. Finally, and to wrap up, and sorry for my bad habit of speaking too much and for so long, but I am trying to come back now to your question. Look, I've seen the figures, and depending on national context, there are indeed some concerning trends. So we can see that there is growing political frustration and growing political distrust at times. And we can't simply discard these figures as mere issues of subjective perceptions or simply as groundless public attitudes. We have to take them seriously, and we have to start acting on our people's hopes and actually work more in embodying European values. Now we are definitely in the new political momentum. As accession talks were open with Albania and North Macedonia, it's quite clear that this was not only a news for Albania and North Macedonia. Actually, this was a news for the whole region, because there was often a question, or there was often a skepticism that the European enlargement agenda is not working out so well in the Western Balkans. So we definitely need to build up on this momentum and do our very best in order to deliver an European agenda, which among others also means delivering in the process of regional integration. So in case you do have further questions, I'm ready to respond, but I think this suffices for the time being.
Genti, thank you very much. And thank you again for the visit at the RCC premises. Yes, there are a lot of concerns that we share together, and we are on the same page on that. And you mentioned the mobility as well, which is one of the pillars of the first area, the one that is running to a deadline now. Actually, yesterday we received the joint letter from both ministers of foreign affairs of North Macedonia and Bulgaria, who are going to chair in the joint presidency the next Berlin process, asking RCC not only to facilitate the implementation of various activities, so as MAPREA 2.0, but as well asking us to assist in moving forward with the ambition of enabling the facilitated movement with ID cards within the region. A development that would be of great benefit to the citizens of Western Balkan 6. And I am proudly just reminding you that this was one of the proposals that RCC shared last year during the Poznan summit in the summit of leaders. So that might be a very good point as well to reach Nenad now, because the groups that really face hurdles and problems while trying to travel in the region, the ones that have to be helped, and we can start with them as well to facilitate this process of moving with ID cards, is business community. And Nenad, you heard and maybe you had the chance to see and go through the data of Balkan Barometer on the business community, which is the engine of our economy. CIF is a key player and a representative of the business community in the region. So I can keep the share of the citizen perception, but I'd like to ask you on the business perception as well. So how feasible do you think that that share of optimism and pessimism that you heard during my introduction, but at least I would stick to the optimism part. How feasible do you think that we can do regionally to steer up the investment and financial capacities of our economies in the aftermath of this pandemic?
Hello to everyone. Hi, Melinda. Nice to see you. Apologies on behalf of Mr. Marko Čadež, who is ill, has a flu. So I have this opportunity to address to you. And I hope I'll meet the standards of Mr. Čadež, especially that Ms. Calavera is sad that she is not here, but I hope that I'll try to present some of our position in respect to the barometer and to the opinion of business community, but also of what we stand and how we see this current situation in respect to the regional economic cooperation. First thing that, yes, of course, we have to say that in current period, the corona outbreak and the pandemic is something which took most of our time, both privately, but also business-wise. And all the figures from the barometer, but also from our respective economies, our respective countries, show that there is a big percent of people who are worried about their well-beings, about their businesses. And they also figures show that there is a significant number of companies that needed to reduce their activity. Some of them needed to close down. Thankfully, that's a smaller number. What is also very good, there is a pretty high level of optimism in the Western Balkans among the business community. And I don't want to pin it to the political culture or the situation of the memories of the even more grimmer past than this pandemic is. But we can really take from this optimism and see how to meet it, and what is our responsibility in our respective jobs to actually work with this, how to say, optimism of business people. What is interesting to say that basically in your barometer there is a obvious lack of trust in the governments expressed by the people and by the businesses, from moderate dissatisfaction to moderate satisfaction. And paradoxically, also the business people and the citizens do expect from those same governments to act, especially in the aftermath of the crisis. But I would say that it's not, I would probably can claim that it's similar also to the European Union. If you see what is the level of satisfaction and dissatisfaction in certain member countries to the EU initial response to the crisis, there is also very worried. But then the things changed, and everyone, all of us, recuperated and managed to put together policies that were somehow curbing with the pandemics. I would say that what is very important for us as a business community and as a Chamber of Commerce is also how to say responsibility for every actor in what they do, be it international community, international organizations, our governments, and Chamber of Commerces, and also to put together a kind of a concrete policies and to take responsibilities for implementation of these policies. And when I say implementation and responsibility, I would say also in a timely manner. We are also facing many disappointments by various measures and policy put by our governments, by the international organizations, and the pace of these both reforms and things that were going on. We can also take the, how to say, MAPRIA and the commitment from the governments, action plan signed, and what are the tangible results for the businesses. Well, some of them there are, but I would say that there is a pretty much dissatisfaction with what has been achieved so far. So I think this is the right moment that we are in with this unfortunate pandemic to put together our strengths and to see what would be the really priorities and how to work to have the next plan work for the citizens and for the businesses alike. And I would say also that our pandemic showed that, I mean, the policies in the past decade in all our countries, but also in the European Union, show there is a lot of deficiencies in the public institutions, and public institutions in this case like health institutions. And also your barometer shows that that reflects this dissatisfaction. And I would say that we really cannot gamble anymore to continue with such a policy, and we have to find a way how to strengthen public competence and public responsibility, at the same time providing auspices for the growing of the private sector. As Ms. Calavera said, that is something which is really the backbone of the development of our societies. I would say that some initiatives that also Chamber Investment Forum took part, I would say drafted and endorsed, is to have the 4 freedoms put in place in all our 6 countries, is something which is worth examining, supporting, and setting forth with the action plan that then we can call all our governments responsible. From labor market, open to all of the citizens of 6 countries. And as one member of CEO of one big company, regional company, said, open labor market in the region is one of the tools how to stop or prevent immigration of our workers to the EU. Opening more opportunities for our people to work across the borders by recognizing basically their qualification in very kind of unbureaucratic manner, but just by agreeing by all 6 parties that basically they are recognizing opening the possibility for people to get employment, to travel, along the line which our three governments started by the Ohrid, Tirana, and Novi Sad declaration, is something which I think it's worthwhile examining and endorsing. If we use this opportunity to put that in the, how to say, new approach in terms of investment that EU is preparing for autumn, and have more, how to say, measurable approach to deliverable by the local governments, but also by everyone included in the regional integration process, I would say that we can hope for in the 2 years to come here and say that there are some concrete results that are felt both by the governments and of course by the business communities. Because business community, what is very good from the barometer, show that basically they continue to grow. That's something which basically there is less progress made by the government than by the business sector, despite the fact that there is a corruption and there is the many other things that are kind of hampering this growth. But this is something which shows that there is resilience of the regional businesses to somehow be more efficient than their local governments are. And I think that in this respect, we can really take some concrete measures from them and see what is the responsibilities for all stakeholders, including the EU in this respect, to somehow make the tangible investment and regional integration plan. And I would conclude with this by saying that basically, if you see the numbers, they are pretty grim in terms of GDP and how the GDP could be affected by the corona crisis by the end of this year. And it goes basically to basically from 3 to 9%, depending of the negative growth, depending of the economy and what the economy is based on, putting overall kind of GDP -4 for the region, with the prospects of kickstart in the 2021. But at the same time, if you compare this to the EU, the numbers are, how to say, a bit more positive. That could be dissuasive, I think, for our policymakers, because we have to be very completely clear that all our economies mostly depend on the EU and on the EU member states and their economic solidity. So I would say, let's use this autumn to put together the regional initiatives that came from the governments, hoping that they were serious into that, to reach to all governments of the region and to address the bottom-up needs of them, and to put a tangible plan that will, how to say, can be delivered in a 4 years' time. I'll just remind of one thing which I think symbolically is important, but in the practice is faltering, namely the road, so-called Peace Highway between Niš and Pristina. We are talking about the section in Serbia, now about 70 kilometers. The road and the idea was initiated 6 years ago at the Berlin Summit, initiation of Berlin Summit. 2020, we are at the situation where 30 kilometers of the highway has been agreed upon and contracted. We expect the work to start in first quarter of 2021 for the section of 35 kilometers. That is 7 years after the initiation of the idea that we can start work on the first section. I don't see this something which really can be a tangible result for anyone, let alone for the governments who are trying to sell this to their own constituency. So I really urge everyone to somehow deliver and to somehow devise the system that will follow the expectations of the business community and of the government. Thanks a lot for your time.
Nenad, thank you very much for your intervention. All the proposals that we are carrying forward are the proposals coming from the governments. So our work is just to coordinate their proposals. So REA was built because the governments have proposed and then tasked RCC to follow that process. and we are on the same page again. So, and you know, you've been there during our meetings with Sherpas and MAP coordinators. So their proposals build our action plan. But now I would stop a bit, so I wouldn't really like to continue and bore you with my voice and my face still on. So I would invite my dear friend Tanya now. Tanya, are you there?
I'm here. Yes, I'm here.
And
Greetings
Tanya
from
will,
Sarajevo.
Tanya will continue now with and you look great.
Oh, thank you very much.
With some questions, I think, and the wrap up of the session. Tanya, the floor to you.
Thank you very much. It's always good to see all of you, Veva, Minister Tsakai, Birnena, the Minister Dimitrov, but also others that participated. I followed your questions here, and as much as I would like to ask you many questions, there are some that I picked because I really think are of the greatest importance. The first thing is that we are all very much amazed with the fact and the results and the effects of coronavirus, which open a huge issue of the everything becoming digital. So even now we are sharing the results of the newest Balkan Barometer using the new ITs because it's not, there is no possibility for us to meet. So digital is the new mantra for sure. We are very happy that from the very beginning we started dealing with the digital agenda. But how to use the training and information that we are all aware is needed in the communication technology. So how can we use this positive trend to our advantage? Especially in light of challenges that the pandemics, that the COVID-19 has brought and turned our lives towards a digitally driven environment. So not particularly question for anybody, but for all of you, please, you can answer all of you with the short answers or some of you. So digital, how to use the trend of the need to becoming even more digitally driven environment. Anybody? Oh, I hope that I choose a good question because I really thought that this is that I did not puzzle you, but as much as you are, we are not dealing with the digital per se in terms of being a specialist for the digitalization, but we are obliged to use much more digital. So Veva, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Tanya. I really appreciate this question because I think it's very opportune. When we think the situation we are today with COVID, you see I'm at home. I mean, we're still teleworking half time in the office, half time at home. The fact that the digital revolution was already with us has helped enormously all of us to continue working with our public duty or companies to continue developing their businesses. And even more important, I think we have to realize that the future of digital will help societies at large to go beyond things that it look unprecedented. 1 year ago, I couldn't imagine that I could drive, public service for the EU in this situation. So the digital revolution is very important. It's very important. We are already experiencing it today, the necessity. But as well for the future, I mean, think about in the new multi-annual financial perspective of the Commission, on the table, we have put a new program, EU for Health. And that program, which will have 7 billion euro proposed by the Commission to the Council and the Parliament, will talk about e-health. We'll talk about how can we increase our capacities for telematics, for telemedicine, e-governance, particularly important if we want to fight against corruption, if we want to make sure that our procurement systems are more transparent, if we want to enhance the level of service for our citizens in terms of public services, and future jobs for our youth. You have a talented youth in this region, all over, and the future is in services, and those services are digital. So certainly the digital revolution is here to stay, and we need to make sure that we have an advantage as well in the region. You can jump on this wave and go into state-of-the-art digitalization, which other countries that maybe start before will take longer to upgrade our digital systems. So for me, I can only hope, and certainly the Commission will be very helpful in this respect, that we need to have a very meaningful discussion, and what we have already worked with the RCC in the past, starting by the roaming decrease, is just the beginning, the top of the iceberg. We have a lot of work still to do in this area. Thank you, Tanya.
Indeed, we just started, but I could not agree more. There is a lot and huge potential for doing so. I see that Nenad is waving. Nenad, please, the floor is yours. Nenad, please unmute yourself.
When I read also one of the recommendations that from the barometer that you prepared, and when you said that the potential for incentivizing innovative activities of SMEs should be explored, because only one in 10 companies on average gets financial support for innovative activities, and much more targeted large companies than SMEs. And this morning we had a roundtable with the companies dealing with the IT, basically with the digital companies in the region, together with your colleagues from RCC and your colleagues from the EU DigiNear. And at that large roundtable, the participants kind of expressed interest, and they said that there is a need for kind of a regional innovative hub, something which would be created to regionally support the innovative businesses. And most of the innovative businesses are coming from let's say digital sector, IT sector, and maybe that's something which definitely we could think of and explore, and to have some institution which is at the regional level in this respect, and not as now we have in some countries, like, you know, then with the respective governments who are supporting their innovative activities, but something which would really explore this regional thing, because definitely digital is not only for one market and for one society, and okay, obviously it's used now to connect us all, but most of our companies and IT engineers are working for international companies, or basically are developing software for some international partners. So I think that innovation in this respect for the region would be something worthwhile considering. That's all for me for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nenad, for sharing with us your view. Yes, we are, these days, we are participating in the communication with the many interlocutors, including the private sector, and yes, they put a lot of emphasis on this. So let me share with you the results of poll. I'm sure that you are more than anxious to see, and maybe if there is a need to comment on that. On the first question, how many Western Balkan citizens find economic prosperity the biggest advantage of the membership? We have a huge majority, 79% of those who say that yes, this is actually the economic advantage for us as citizens within the region. On the second question, what is the most realistic accession date for the Western Balkans? The million-dollar question. We are, I mean, the people answering saying that the majority of them, 79% by 2030. 2025 has less acceptance, only 12%, but also the answer never, we are much more optimistic than that. Less than 10% are saying that we will never become part of the European Union. The third question. Western Balkan businesses usually do not differentiate between the EU and the region when they make investment decisions. How many Western Balkan businesses invested in the EU or plan to do so in the next 12 months? So around half, so 40% are ready to invest is the majority answer. The fourth question, how many West Balkan citizens agree that the regional cooperation can contribute to the political, economic, or security situation? Vast majority, 86% say that it can, the regional cooperation actually contribute to that. And the issue of the confident about the economic condition after COVID-19, as you can imagine, more think it will be very different time in front of us. But let me remind you, the pool has been answered by the attendees of participants of today's presentation of the Balkan Barometer. Is there any reaction to this results of the poll? Immediate reaction, but we will for sure discuss on the issue even further. If not, yeah.
Again, I mean, I'm sorry, maybe am I using the floor too much? No, one comment that I'm very happy that basically, despite very complicated and complex political relations in the region, the businesses are ready to, up to a very high number, to take this venture and invest in the region, which is really something that is encouraging and add to the optimism. I just wouldn't dare to think how that would be if the political situation is less strained, and how the stability in the region, political stability in the region and cooperation in the region would really unleash the potential even more that lays in the region. So I think that is also encouragement, but also some kind of positive target to follow by also our governments, I would say. Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed, thank you very much, Nenad. And in order not to be presumptuous, but at least to have some wrap it up of today's session, first, for sure, we never had the situation like this for the presentation of the Balkan Barometer. This is the 6th one, but the toughest situation for sure. And the outbreak of Corona is definitely showed how fragile we are, how major health crisis can spread across the region, world for sure, but also for the region, and create disruptions of the global and regional economies. And the situation is likely to become even more complex in the coming months. And we are going very closely to follow this situation. We are witnessing the fact that the loss of outputs and the related measures to contain the spread is unprecedented. That is something that we also noticed here. That more regional is necessary, and thank you, Minister Tsakai, for pointing out how important this fact is, and it proved to be a very important element of our survey and research today. The uncertain relating to the duration of the crisis and the unorthodox position of the governments, where instead of stimulating the aggregate demand, the governments are forced to contain the economic activity, in order to slow the spread of the virus, which is an interesting position for all of us, but also for all of them. Therefore, it is an utmost importance and urgency for the governments to respond quickly and effectively to the situation as to, in first instance, protect the health of population, and second, to mitigate the economic consequences. Keeping the economy functioning to the extent possible throughout pandemic and after it should be one of the government's primary concerns. Thus, other immediate concerns are pending structural reforms may fall into the background. But let me finish on the more positive note. Let's hope that the next edition of the Balkan Barometer findings will prove us the complete opposite. That we will have the boost of the positive perception of citizens and businesses regarding the management of the crisis and overall economic outlook for the Western Balkans as such. Again, grateful to all of your time for sharing with us your thoughts, not only about the Balkan Barometer, but the regional cooperation. I see also Melinda. It will.
I just as well wanted to say thank you to everybody for the patience, the time, definitely the support, and actually, yes, we truly believe that we are stronger in this together. No.
For sure, yes, we are. Thank you. I think that we are going to finish again with the video.
Yeah, Viva, yes, unmuted. Yeah.
Just to thank you, Melinda and Tanya, and of course all the RCC staff for giving us the opportunity to be here with you and with Nenad and with the ministers and really take a stock of the temperature of the public opinion in the Western Balkans, and certainly look forward very close work together in the months and the year ahead. So next year barometer reflects, like the Commissioner wish, improve in the public opinion and in the trust about our common future. Thank you.
Beba, thank you very much. Gent, thank you very much. Nicola, thank you. Nenad, thank you. Tanya. So see each other, the RCC staff tomorrow. We'll have the annual meeting, plus the ministerial as well in the morning. So 2 long days. Thank you and enjoy the evening. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
The Regional Cooperation Council presents Balkan Barometer People and Business Viewpoints. better regional.
In these unprecedented times, technology has allowed us to work, educate, and live emotions, although physically distant. Yet not all could be done this way. Our lives as we know it went through a tremendous trial. Does it come as a surprise to you that 90% of Western Balkan citizens see coronavirus as a threat to their national economy, whereas only 70% see it as a threat to themselves personally? Well, I'm not surprised that the fear of losing one's job is greater than actually getting the virus, especially when we know that the unemployment is on the rise in the region as we brace ourselves for a recession. More than 90% of the people see measures taken to stop spreading the virus, such as self-isolation, quarantine for the infected, and the use of masks and gloves as effective. But less than half, 42% to be precise, think that governments are doing enough to protect people from losing their jobs, whereas 35% are impatient to return to work, whereas 32% are just happy to be spending time at home with their families. Now, if anything positive did come out of this pandemic, it's spending more time with loved ones. When it comes to Western Balkan businesses, 81% had been affected by COVID-19. 2% had been forced to close down, and 60% had to downscale in order to survive. On the other hand, 38% declared problems with supply chain, which I suppose would have been an even bigger issue had the region not succeeded to open green corridors. Now, the biggest concern for businesses is a loss of income, and you can see this in the example of the tourism sector, which during lockdown lost €1 billion monthly. 50% of businesses believe that financial aid would be best, while 48% believe that delaying taxes is the way to go. To conclude with, 1/4 of businesses are not confident they have the resources to make it through the coronavirus outbreak. Although 5% already report firing their staff permanently, in the Western Balkans, there is still a dash of optimism, with 41% of businesses are confident that the economic situation after the COVID situation will be positive. Perhaps they'll create a vaccine or find a cure, or the virus will just simply weaken. But whatever happens, we'd like to believe it. Cappuccino? Cafe latte. Enjoy. I'm Rashad Strick, the owner of the Ministry at Chafe, a small coffee shop in Sarajevo.